On the afternoon of July 11, 2018, residents of Thong Nut Ward in Pleiku City were met with a haunting scene that would shake them to their core. A young woman, emaciated and caked in mud, dragged herself out of a roadside drainage pipe. But far more terrifying than the filth was the condition of her body. Covered in crisscrossing burns, her teeth broken, an ear sliced open, and her skin riddled with infected wounds. This was Nhieu, 23 years old. She had just escaped a literal living hell, a place where her employer, in a meth-induced psychosis, had subjected her to 13 of the most sadistic torture methods imaginable. The case of Nguyen Thi Ha, also known as Na Vot, is not merely a case of intentional injury. It is a story about the devastation of drugs and the complete erasure of humanity. What happened behind those closed doors? The story begins in 2014. Nhieu, a young woman from the Ji Trang ethnic minority in Kon Tum province, decided to leave her village. Driven by her family's extreme poverty, she moved to Gia Lai to work, hoping to change her life. Initially working as a wedding server, she was later hired by Nguyen Thi Ha, born 1979, nicknamed Na Vot, as a live-in maid. Her duties were simple: cleaning and cooking, for a salary of 3.5 million VND a month. It wasn't a fortune, but enough for Nhieu to dream of helping her family. The first few years passed quietly, but tragedy began to simmer when the White Death crept into the house. Nguyen Thi Ha fell into addiction using crystal meth. Not content with using alone, Ha dragged her other employees into the drug habit as well. As the drugs took control of her brain, Na Vot began to hallucinate. She became convinced that Nhieu, the gentlest person in the house, had stolen her money. Without evidence or reason, starting in early June 2018, the gates of hell officially opened for Nhieu. For over a month, from June until July 9, 2018, Nhieu endured a total of 13 horrific torture sessions. Imagine a human body having to withstand this. It started with beatings using a 90-centimeter sword and a hollow iron bar striking her head, shoulders, and hands. The pain was so unbearable that Nhieu falsely confessed to stealing the money, just hoping for mercy. She led Ha to the garden to dig for the imaginary cash, but naturally there was no money, and Ha's madness only intensified. The cruelty escalated day by day. Ha used a wooden plank with 5 long nails driven into it, striking Nhieu directly in the stomach, piercing the skin. She used a mini gas torch to burn the young girl's hair and scalp. Not yet satisfied, Ha ordered others to heat an iron bar over a charcoal stove, then press the glowing metal directly against Nhieu's face, neck, back, and thighs. Can you imagine the smell of burning flesh and the screams of despair in that house? But the savagery reached its peak in the days that followed. Ha forced Nhieu to place her hand on a cutting board and smashed her thumb with an iron hammer. She used the hammer to break the victim's front teeth, and most horrifying of all, Ha used a pair of iron pliers to coldly twist and pull out Nhieu's teeth one by one while she was fully conscious. Then she used the pliers to clip and tear the girl's left ear. On the final day before the escape, Ha plugged in 2 electric irons until they were scorching hot, then pressed them directly on Nhieu's chest, stomach, and buttocks. By this point, the 23-year-old's body didn't have a single inch of unscarred skin. Her injury rate was later determined to be 72%, a number that speaks to the brutal destruction she suffered. Overnight on July 10th, heading into the 11th, Nhieu used the last of her strength to escape while Ha and her henchmen were distracted. She crawled into a drainage pipe under a construction on Lê Đại Han Street and hid there all night, ignoring the mud and the agony of her wounds, terrified of being caught. By 1 p.m. the next day, locals found her. The truth came to light. Police stepped in, and Nguyen Thi Ha was arrested. However, there was another pain Nhieu reported that the law could not prosecute. She stated she was pregnant during her captivity, but after ruthless kicks to her stomach by Ha and her acolytes, she miscarried. The fetus was buried in a hurry. Investigators took Nhieu to find the burial site for DNA testing, but nothing was found. Ha denied it, and with no other witnesses, this act could not be prosecuted. It remains a silent, unresolved tragedy. On November 2nd, 2018, the People's Court of Pleiku City opened the trial. Before the court, Nguyen Thi Ha, the woman who used pliers, hammers, irons, and swords to torture a human being, appeared remorseful. Her family paid 180 million VND in compensation. Surprisingly, Nhieu, despite bearing 72% permanent disability, filed a request for leniency for her torturer, a heartbreaking display of forgiveness from this honest young woman. The court sentenced Nguyen Thi Ha to 10 years in prison for intentional infliction of injury. 10 years for a monster, 180 million VND in compensation. Are these numbers enough to trade for Nhieu's health, her beauty, and the 72% of her body that was destroyed? Can it erase her nightmares of hot irons and pliers? The case is closed, but it leaves a stark warning about how drugs destroy human character. From a normal woman, meth turned Ha into a demon. And poor, uneducated workers like Nhieu are always the most vulnerable victims. What do you think about this 10-year sentence? Is it enough of a deterrent for such cruel behavior? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to follow other shocking cases.
Today, we're digging into a court case out of Vietnam that honestly just stunned the entire country. It's a story about an employer, her domestic worker, and, well, a level of cruelty that leads to a verdict you might not expect.
So 10 years. That was the final sentence handed down to the defendant, Nguyen Thi Ha, a decade behind bars. But to really get how the court landed on that specific number, we've got to rewind and look at the whole story.
Okay, so the official charge, it translates to intentional injury. But let me tell you, as the court soon found out, that legal term, it doesn't even come close to describing the calculated, sadistic violence that one woman inflicted on another. To really understand this verdict, we're going to walk through the entire story. We'll start with the victim's background, then get into the month of horrific abuse she went through, her incredible escape, how the court actually weighed all the evidence, and then, this is the really wild part, a surprising plea that was made right at the very end.
All right, let's start with the young woman at the absolute heart of this case. Who was she and how did she end up in this situation?
So, the victim's name was Nhieu. She was just 23 from the Nhieu Trieng ethnic minority. And like so many others from rural areas, she left home because of tough family circumstances. She was looking for work in the city of Pleiku, and she got a job with Nguyen Thi Ha as a housekeeper. The pay, about $150 a month.
And this is where everything just takes a horrifying turn. The employer, Ha, after using methamphetamine, got incredibly paranoid. She accused Nhieu of stealing from her. And that single accusation, it was the spark that ignited a month of just unimaginable cruelty.
And what came next? This wasn't just a single burst of anger. No, this was a relentless, systematic campaign of violence. The court actually documented at least 13 separate, distinct instances of torture, all packed into a single month.
It started in early June. Ha grabbed a 90-centimeter sword and just struck Nhieu Thi on her shoulder and the back of her hand.
From there, the torture just escalated, fast. Ha would heat up iron rods in a charcoal fire and then press them right against Nhieu's face, her neck, her back, her arms, her legs, causing these horrific burns.
And at one point, Ha used what you can only describe as a specially prepared weapon, a wooden plank that she'd driven 5 nails through. And she used this to repeatedly strike Nhieu in the abdomen.
The cruelty just kept going. She used a mini gas torch, the kind you might see in a kitchen, and she used it to burn Why Nhieu's hair and scalp?
Her hands were very deliberately targeted. Ha forced Nhieu to put her hands on a cutting board, and then she just smashed her fingers and knuckles with a hammer.
And then she took that same hammer and turned it on Nhieu's mouth, breaking her front teeth. After that, she grabbed a pair of pliers and just forcibly pulled 2 of them out.
And you have to understand, these attacks were just relentlessly repetitive. I mean, on one occasion, Ha took 2 hot clothes irons and just pressed them against Nhieu's chest, her abdomen, and her back over and over and over again.
After more than a month of this escalating nightmare, Nhieu saw a chance, a small window of opportunity, and she knew this might be her only shot at getting out. So, in the dead of night, while her captors were distracted, Nhieu managed to flee the house. She ran to a construction site nearby and hid herself inside a concrete drainage pipe. She stayed there all night and through the next morning. It wasn't until the afternoon that some local residents found her and immediately took her to the police. Her physical ordeal, at least, was finally over.
So, okay, once this horrific case gets into the justice system, how does a court even begin to process this level of cruelty? I mean, how do you translate these acts into a legal judgment?
The first step was a forensic examination. They needed to figure out the exact extent of the physical damage to Nhieu's body, and the result came back as a single number, 72%.
And that number is incredibly important. In the Vietnamese legal system, this percentage of bodily harm is a critical piece of medical evidence. It's not just a guess. It's a formal assessment that quantifies the permanent damage done to a person's body. So that 72% figure, it became the stark, official record of everything Nhieu had suffered.
From there, the court had to do this really difficult balancing act. On one side, you have these incredibly serious, aggravating factors, the thuggish, brutal nature of the crime, the fact that it wasn't just one attack, but multiple, repeated offenses, and of course, the use of cruel and torturous methods. But then, on the other side of the scale, you have mitigating factors. Ha did give an honest confession. Her family paid a significant amount in compensation, 180 million dong. Her father was a decorated war veteran. And then, the most surprising one of all, Nhieu herself actually pleaded for a lighter sentence.
So, after weighing all of this, the forensic reports, the testimony, all those legal factors, the court was ready to deliver its final judgment.
The final verdict for Nguyen Thi Ha was 10 years in prison. But as the trial was wrapping up, the single most unforgettable moment, it didn't come from the judge. It came from the victim.
Think about this. Despite every single act of torture, every burn, every broken bone she had to endure, Nhieu stood up in that courtroom. She looked at the woman who had done all this to her, and she asked the judge for mercy.
And that just leaves us with this incredibly profound question, right? Nhieu's plea, it forces us to look beyond the legal math of aggravating and mitigating factors. It makes us ask ourselves about the unbelievable complexities of the human spirit when faced with extreme violence.